Diepolder Sink 2 on May 11, 1990 in Hernando County, Florida. 25-year-old Michael Spears and his diving partner Daniel, aged 34, prepared to dive into Diepolder Sink 2, one of Florida's most dangerous underwater cave systems. Michael had earned his cave diving certification just 5 months earlier, even though he had completed 75 cave dives. Daniel, however, had over 10 years of experience. Unfortunately, recent rains had reduced visibility, but this didn't stop them. After checking their gear, they entered the water. They carefully moved through the narrow entrance into the main cave. By the time they reached the junction room, the water had become very cloudy. They could barely see a few feet ahead with their lights. They relied on the guideline, a thin rope that helps divers find their way in caves. When they reached the upper circuit line, the water cleared slightly. They adjusted their gear, gave each other okay hand signals, and began going deeper into the cave system. As they went past 200 feet, deep breathing became harder. The compressed air felt heavier in their lungs. At this depth, divers can get nitrogen narcosis, which is like being drunk underwater, as it slows thinking and reactions. Halfway through their dive, Daniel noticed something wrong. Michael had drifted below the guideline. At first, it was just a few feet, but then he went down faster, as if being pulled. His movements became weird. They were already near 250 feet deep, approaching the same junction room as before, where they would have to go back through the muddy water. When they reached the junction room once again, visibility dropped to 0. Michael reached for the guideline twice and missed. Panic set in. Disoriented, he turned the wrong way back into the cave instead of toward the exit. Daniel lost sight of him immediately. Michael was fighting for his life. He saw what he thought was a guideline and followed it, unknowingly swimming deeper into an isolated chamber called the downstream ballroom. The increasing depth made breathing harder as carbon dioxide built up in his blood. His vision darkened at the edges, and it was becoming clear that it was the beginning of a depth-induced blackout. When his buoyancy failed, he sank and lost consciousness before reaching the bottom. Meanwhile, Daniel completed his required safety stops to prevent decompression sickness, a process needed to let nitrogen safely exit the body. At his 30-foot stop, Daniel looked around for Michael, but couldn't see him. By the time he reached the surface, other divers had arrived. They went back into the cave following the guideline to the junction room, but couldn't find Michael. The next morning, a team of skilled cave divers began the rescue operation. They carefully followed the guideline to the junction room and into the lower circuit, moving slowly to avoid stirring up more sediment. After hours of searching at 241 ft deep, they found Michael lying face down. His regulator remained in his mouth, and his mask in place, signs he had blacked out before realizing he was in danger. His oxygen tank was still half full. The search took 7 hours. The rescue team secured his body and brought him to the surface. Experts concluded that nitrogen narcosis and depth-induced blackout worsened by carbon dioxide buildup had caused Michael's death.